Hello and welcome to another episode of a Wicked Parley. I'm your host, Justin, and my fellow co-host, Rose.
Evening, everybody.
So, tonight we're going to be discussing some interesting things, but primarily we're going to be talking about opportunity. And you are like super low.
I am?
Yeah, for a second when you moved away from the mic.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah, it's okay.
Let's see.
Anyway.
Let's try this.
Yeah, that's a little better. All
Okay.
right. So before we get into today's subject, I want to kind of bring about a couple of things that I think are kind of important.
Okay.
First, I'd just like to remind everybody that there's going to be a Q&A on June the 16th. And with that Q&A, I think it'll be nice to get some questions. So similarly to how we did it last time, go ahead and send in your questions to the show at awickedparley@gmail.com. And once again, it can be any questions you'd like to ask. Hopefully nothing too silly, but if you want to hear me talk about a video game, or you want me to talk about some sort of political issue or anything under the sun, go for it. I'd also like to let you guys know that I've got some recent feedback when it comes to the show in regards to the content we put out, primarily discussing the psychological issues. And I know that this is a psychology-focused channel to some extent, and we don't really talk about psychology all that much. And I've explained this a little bit, but I want to once again kind of explain it a little bit more. That each of these episodes for the next 15 or so that are continue are kind of like the beginning of a conversation. And that conversation, it has to have a starting point. But as it's been pointed out, I need to talk about more psychology stuff, and so I feel it's necessary to kind of do a back to basics kind of episode where I introduce psychology as a whole and as a beginning topic. And then from that point on, moving forward on future episodes, I'll be integrating some of those key terms that I'll discuss in that episode in future content. Hopefully this will be interesting and will be appeasing those who have been wanting and having a hunger for psychology as a more substance in the channel. Without all that stuff out of the way, are there any things that you'd like to get into before we get into the actual topic, Rose?
You got the reminder about the Q&A session next. Well, not next Wednesday, but the 16th, the following Wednesday.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Back to Basics episode, which is actually going to happen after that on the 19th, so Saturday. And then, let's see. Thank you for all the support so far. We really appreciate it all so far. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. We'd love to see you and your friends in the chats. I always like reading them. Hello, Matthew. Hello, host. Welcome back to the show.
Yes, welcome back. And
But yeah.
I second all of that.
We'd really like more viewers because it's like we like reading the comments, we like hearing other perspectives, and we'd really appreciate some that could kind of challenge us and make us learn even more, because it's like everything's a learning opportunity.
That's right. And after all, we are students still, so there's always more knowledge out there and more things to chase. So
Oh, hey,
why not?
opportunity. Haha.
Yeah, exactly. There's a plug for the episode that we're in now. So yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, more opportunities the better. So with that said, let's jump
Shameless
into
plug.
it.
Dun 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 dun, the microphone of questions.
Indeed, opportunity.
Dun 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 dun. Drum. I don't know how to do a drum roll. Okay.
We don't have a drum roll yet, but
Not
that's a sound effect that will be added in the future. Make a
Yep.
note of that now.
All right. So today we're gonna try and do it discussion paced, but we have some, topic questions. So let's see. The first one. What does opportunity mean to you? And feel free to type in your comments in the chat while we answer, and we might have the time to read them. I'm not quite sure. I'm very
Yeah.
terrible with timing.
Well, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
Well, I think opportunity to me is kind of a difficult thing to kind of pin down because it kind of means so much. But I think at the end of the day, it's everything that's afforded to you that allows you for some sort of mobility upwards in any aspect of anything you are trying to do. So whether it be a job, whether it be like education, whether it has something to do in some sort of social setting. It's anything that adds to your overall, intent and purpose.
Okay. I've got something similar, not quite to that degree. For me, an opportunity is more of a chance to do something. For the most part, it's for bettering yourself, as you've kind of went into before. But for me, it's just really a chance to do potentially something different or something that could even be neutral.
Why is that?
Mostly because it's like there's an additional label for me which gets added to it, as in I can talk about it later because I think I put in a question sometime later about there are such things as good opportunities, and then there's things that are potentially bad opportunities, and then they're just like the one that I just label as opportunities, which are kind of neutral. They could be bad, they could be good, they could even just be neutral because you decided, tried it, didn't want to keep it.
Yeah, that makes sense to some extent. I mean, I can think of a couple different opportunities that kind of fit in that particular category. I mean, imagine if a friend comes up to you and like, hey, let's start a business. And you're like, cool, what do you bring to the table? Oh, myself. Like, that's an interesting opportunity. I think I'm going to pass.
Yeah, so it's just like, some of them, it's like, it could be neutral, it could go either way, and it's a chance, you just didn't bother taking it, you know?
Yeah, sure. So for you, an opportunity is pretty much just a chance then at that point.
Yeah, it doesn't really mean positive, it doesn't mean negative, it just is a chance that you could take up or decline.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think some opportunities, like when I think about them, are kind of like opportunities for like neighborhoods and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I mean, I've always heard of those outreach programs, and I've always seen them as kind of opportunities to make neighborhoods that are not so great better.
Fair.
And so when I think of opportunity, a lot of times my mind just automatically gravitates in that particular direction.
Fair. I can see why that's the case, because opportunity to a lot of people can be more on the individual scale, but it can also be on a more global or local or just larger scale than just one individual.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Matthew, a positive position and a productive situation.
Mm-hmm.
I can see it. Depending on, the lifestyles and the life experiences of those.
Yeah, it's definitely one way to look at it, but I also think that just because an opportunity can be positive, I think it also opens the door for opportunities to be negative.
Potentially, yeah.
How many people have been tempted by drugs and alcohol or like at any point in life? So it's like, those are opportunities in a downward trajectory.
Mm-hmm. You could even have opportunities which seem good, but they ended up having sometimes negative side effects.
For sure, absolutely.
And then host. An opportunity is a choice.
I mean, yeah, sometimes. I think sometimes it's not even necessarily a choice though, right? Sometimes opportunities prevail to you without you having the ability to decide for them. An example being like if you're born with a silver spoon in hand kind of thing, you're not exactly given the choice to be born in that particular point and being able to have those kinds of
Fair.
opportunities.
I think we get into that a little bit later too.
Yeah, I think so.
So, I see a couple more people in the chat, but hi to y'all. I don't know who y'all are, but I will give personalized hellos if I can see you in the chat. I can't say hi, did you just read? Okay.
I don't see anybody when it comes to names.
Yeah, I can only say hi to a name if I see you in the chat. I can't see who's actually watching. I just know there are people watching.
Okay.
Alright. Alright, we got a couple for the first one. Do you think, I think the rest of any extra talk about it's kind of covered in the rest of the topics, I think.
Yeah, I think so. We can go
Wanna
on
move
to
on?
the next one. Sure.
Okay. We're gonna try this format for this one, and then hopefully people will give us feedback. Like, do people like the pictures, or would you rather just have the question microphone? So, we'll see. Alright, second topic. What is your opinion on opportunities that just happen versus ones that people make for themselves?
I think you should answer this one first.
Sure, fair. So opportunities that just happen versus ones that people make for themselves. The opportunities that just happen, I think we are covering a little bit more detail in a later topic, but for just a brief overview. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I get jealous. Because it's like, like we're gonna mention later, sometimes you can just be born, like you mentioned with the whole silver spoon, and you're provided or given or afforded certain opportunities just because of that. And yeah, sometimes that just makes me jealous.
Okay.
It's like I understand it, but at the same time, for the opportunities that people make for themselves, again, part of it's jealousy, but part of it's also awe that people can actually make those opportunities for themselves. Some of them can be considered relatively easy, but then there are opportunities that are extremely hard to do, such as they're very specialized or they're kind of gated because there are certain thresholds or you have to pass or certain skills you have to have that can be...
Are you talking about
if you're not
academically, like a career situation?
Academically, like intelligence, or even some talents.
Oh, like a performer or something like that?
Yeah, for a performer or even an artist, because it's like I've kind of over the years have noticed how hard it is for people to be artists and be successful at it because it's so subjective, and taking the opportunity or making the opportunity to be a well-known artist or something, or just even an artist that can live off of that occupation is an opportunity that's kind of hard to do.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that. I mean, there's a lot of skills, there's a lot of materials, there's a lot of like other things that are involved in being an artist. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely lots of little extra intricacies that make those particular opportunities more difficult than others. And there's like a greater threshold for certain people to kind of have to like cross when it comes to something like that, because you have to be really spectacular if you're going to do something artistic to stand out, to actually get that notoriety, to get that position, to get the opulence that's necessary for opportunities to be afforded to you. At least that's my particular position when I hear something like that.
Let's see.
You're kind of low, by the way.
Huh? Oh.
Yeah, you gotta speak into the mic.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to like keep tilted, but reading the chats in another direction here.
Alright, well then move the mic in the direction of the chat.
Yeah, I'm trying. At the same time, cannot overheat. Alright.
Okay.
Gonna work with it. Let's see. So I can see 2 comments here. Do you think we've got enough time to read them right now, or
Sure.
should I just read them? Okay. Let's see. Matthew, every moment is an opportunity. To suggest that no one is offered the same, isn't this life not fair? I'm not quite sure I'm understanding that comment correctly.
I think opportunity is something that is, it comes in different ways as you go through life. You know, it's, life isn't fair, and that's not real. Like, I mean, that's just, in my particular perspective, I think it's an argument against, you know, a balance of stuff. And I'm not suggesting that life is necessarily balanced. In fact, I actually am suggesting quite the opposite. And so when it comes to how I think about that particular thing, I would say that opportunity is around every corner, is available to you every second of every moment of every day if you're looking for it. But I think the average person doesn't. I think the average person is very busy, very distracted. And I think that because of those distractions, because of those things that are so busy, the fact that everyone's constantly looking down on a cell phone, you know, maybe the opportunities that are supposed to be right in front of you aren't necessarily as in front of you as you might, you know, have hoped or think they might be. And so I think it's a very optimistic outlook on something that I think is very complex. And so I personally don't think I agree with the narrative of that particular question as it's presented. Well, not question, but statement. It's probably more accurate.
All right. Sorry, I had to take care of a technical difficulty on my end. Anyway. Let's see. Host. Opportunities created feels more rewarding, focused, and intentional. Random opportunities offer variety.
Opportunities come in all shapes and sizes. I don't think necessarily that one opportunity, being one thing and then another opportunity being another thing are two equal things. So yeah, it makes sense that there's some variety there. Although I don't see too much of the point behind suggesting that opportunities are variety, because wouldn't that be inherent to the ways in which all people typically function? And the ways in which lives typically go down, you do have this ups and downs, ebb and flow sort of thing when it comes to what someone can do and what information is being presented. And so there's this sort of, I would say, chancy approach to opportunity that I think is more chaotic in its sense of identity, that I think is more prescribing to what you're actually saying, which I think is something I ultimately agree with in that particular avenue, if that's the road you're trying to go down with that statement.
Yeah, I can see where that opinion comes from. Since, if for the opportunities that people make for themselves, it's you kind of know what type of opportunity you're trying to make, and when you actually make it work, there's been that build-up to have it happen, so I can see why that feels more rewarding and whatnot.
Sure, yeah.
And then the random opportunities, well, randomness.
Yeah.
You never know what you're getting.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
For this question, I've had a little bit of time to think about it.
Yeah.
And my opinion when it comes to this is that I think all opportunities themselves are inherently always available. You just have to have the drive to actually seek them. Follow them, have conviction, do what's necessary, and be very assertive with what you want. And so that way your intention allows you to compact your overall resolve, and then that lets you get more opportunities, and you just build from there, getting ever more, which allows you to progress through life in a more advantageous position. And that's a way in which you can use opportunities to benefit you, and why I think that they don't just technically happen, you make them happen for yourself.
Okay. Let's see, we've got...
You're very quiet.
Huh?
You gotta speak into the mic.
I am speaking into the mic, which is the funny thing.
That's so weird.
I haven't adjusted anything at all. I'm speaking right into it.
And it's just going quiet in the beginning, and then it just kind of picks itself up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, well, technical issues. Sorry, guys.
Anyway, on to the next one.
Yeah.
I can kind of tell how loud I'm being just with my own spectralizer.
Yeah, it's really
kind of
low.
interesting.
It's really low. See, it's saying like when I'm talking, I can see the spectralizer move, and when you talk, it goes very far, but it's not actually that far. Just kind of
it could be your actual volume.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Anyway, does where you begin in life afford you more opportunities, and if so, why?
Oh my gosh. I'll take this one.
Okay.
Yes, very much so. I think the reasons why, depending on where you're born in life, afford you more opportunities. Just look at education, look at comfortability and overall success, right? If you're born in a situation where you're from a low-income family and you have very low ability to do anything, the number of opportunities that are essentially available to you is very small. If you're a middle-class person and you're not quite, really, out, gangbusters, but you're just kind of making it kind of thing, and you got a little bit extra at the end of the day, you have some opportunities, not a huge amount, but then I think that the people whom have, that hold the gates of power, or the very wealthy individuals, have the opportunity to choose. And because they have that opportunity to choose what they want to do in their life, it gives them the ability to pass on certain things that they can kind of have a better look at. Almost kind of like if you're, if you have higher ground, you can kind of see further down. I think that's kind of what one of the things that opportunities kind of allow you to have when you're more, yes, it does lean into privilege.
I just don't remember when.
Yeah, we talked about privilege before. But I definitely think that opportunities matter when it comes to the nature of birth. Is probably, like, if you are in a family that is exceedingly wealthy, you're going to have a lot more opportunities out the gate, which means you're going to get a lot further in life earlier. And I think the exact opposite is true for people in, impoverished circumstances, because I think they're going to be afforded far less opportunities. Or more accurately, those opportunities exist for both people, but being able to act on those particular opportunities is only going to be available to those people who are more in a higher status or more wealthy. Because I think that technically, if you want to look at this from a very objective perspective, most of the opportunities that are afforded to all classes, at least in the United States, are kind of across the board if you have the time. But I think that typically if you have a lower income family, you're probably going to have to work a lot harder. There's going to be a lot less attention on your children, which means the opportunities for those children for advancement happens later. So they have to start, I always like to think of everything in this situation kind of like start lines. The more money you have, you kind of start that much closer to the finish line. The less money you have, the further back you are from the finish line.
Sorry, I immediately compared to that, like, to games.
Yeah, you can think of it like that. It's like you could imagine like people who are extremely
free to play versus pay to win.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was the immediate comparison I came up with.
Yeah, it's a good comparison. I also like to think of it like a racing game. People who are extremely wealthy are on the last lap, while people who are, not are on like lap 5, lap 10. It's like, yeah, no, you got some catching up to do, and that's
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you begin in life is just, again, sometimes you're kind of born into it, like you mentioned with the whole silver spoon thing.
Mm-hmm.
Got a lot more chances, whether that be for travel, connections, potentially better education, or better quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on how you kind of get raised, that also kind of leads into future opportunities. Like what Matthew says, opportunities definitely are applied more to the youth than to adults. I can see where that comes in, but depending on the opportunities, I feel as if the opportunities you have as a youth kind of lead into the opportunities you can apply yourself to when you're an adult.
I agree with that for a lot of reasons. I think it's a mindset. I think that it's kind of like if you're young, right, and you're already in the mindset of I'm going to start to exploit those opportunities, I'm going to start to make myself available to do those sorts of things, then when you become an adult, you're more in the headspace of, okay, I'm going to use these opportunities to get myself further. Rather, if you're not doing that at an early age, then you have to learn that skill later on, which means you have to then slowly adapt over time. It still does that whole setback thing, or as you mentioned, the whole pay to win in the video game situation.
And even the timing itself is just an opportunity, because sometimes you'll have more time to be able to learn these skills and better improve them, whereas some people have a lot less time, and the quote, I say quote final product because there's always room for improvement in practically everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you give two people the same time set, one of them has a different set of, they're born in a different set of circumstances than another person.
Mm-hmm.
By the time they finish trying to learn whatever skill or whatnot,
mm-hmm.
because of their circumstances, one of them's going to have a more improved skill set over the other one, even with the same time, or if they're learning the same things, just because of the different qualities.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. I agree with that.
So time itself is a constraint on opportunities as well. So if you've been able to start off searching for opportunities, exploiting them at that young age, you got that head start way earlier than somebody who decided to wait until maybe preteens or even teenage years to start learning how to exploit those.
There's also the whole mindset thing too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't really consider the fact that the young mind has almost a plasticity, effect to it. Meaning that it's very malleable. And the thing about that is that it's very easy for children who are very young to learn language. They're also able to learn certain behavioral skills really easily. And so the more they're able to easily learn these things, they're able to adopt them more readily and are able to do it for the rest of their lives rather than having some sort of delayed sort of learning process that kind of gives them a setback in a multitude of ways. And so, like, I think that's a really important thing to kind of take a note as well. Is not the time is very valuable, but also the mattering of, biologically speaking, where are they at mentally when it comes to something like that is equally important.
Yeah. So, thank you, Matthew, for bringing that up, because I completely forgot about the time aspect until I started thinking on your comment. So, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right. This is why I love the chat sometimes. Want to move on to the next topic?
Sure.
Make sure you get your water break.
Yeah, I don't have water today.
Oh, no. Oh,
I
why?
know.
Why no water break? Hydrate before
later.
you dehydrate. All right.
Is that a fact?
All right, this is kind of related to the last one. The last one's more of, I'm not even gonna finish that. I lost my train of thought.
Oh my.
Does where you live matter when it comes to the opportunities you can get? If you want the short bit, I'm pretty sure we would probably say yes, but if you want the detailed bit, who do you want to go first, me or you?
I think since I went first last time, I think you can go.
Okay. So, again, short answer is yes. The reasoning behind most of those is if I keep things in general, because I don't know what my co-host is going to cover when it comes to details here.
Don't worry
You've
about
got, of course, geography. You've got, of course, the local economy and your community. Depending on your community, the people you've got around you. I need to stop looking at the chat now. All right, focus on the question. Here we go. You've got, of course, like I mentioned, geography, community, a local economy. Because of all those factors, you're going to have different opportunities, like education. People straight up go to different countries, go across international waters, or even just like outside to different towns to do their education. To bring a more concrete example, at least in my opinion, because there are just some education systems that, or education schools that work, and then there are some that are just better because of the environment around them. And that sort of thought process kind of applies to people as well, and the opportunities they're given, such as the economy here in California, definitely different than, say, Washington or New York. Businesses are different. Known restaurants and locations are different, such as in Washington. Just to give a brief example, In-N-Out is a California thing.
Yeah.
And then, you go up to some other state and you try to mention that, and they've got no idea.
Okay.
So it's like opportunities for education, even groceries, food, entertainment. Each of those kind of differ depending on where you live, so that's one of the main things. There are, of course, other aspects that I'm not even considering. Okay. Do you want to take over, or do you want me to keep flailing?
No, don't worry about it. I'll push you off your soapbox now.
Whee!
All right. So when it comes to this particular question, I think that the answer for me is it depends. I'm an optimist at heart, and I'd like to say yes, but I know better. And the thing is that if you live in a community that is rural or isolated in some way, let's say you were born, unfortunately, in North Korea. I'm not going to say that you're not going to have opportunity because I don't live in North Korea, but everything I've ever heard about the place doesn't sound like there's such things at all. There's existence, and it's barely that. All right?
Yikes.
Literally in the spring, everyone dies. So,
what?
Yes, seriously, in the spring, normally spring, time of renewal, time for happiness, right?
Uh-huh.
There was a person that was interviewed by Jordan Peterson that I watched recently, who was someone who escaped from North Korea. And they were talking about how in North Korea people hate the spring because that's when everyone dies because they starve. So, when it comes to certain places in the world, there are examples of individuals where opportunity is not available to them. And so it wouldn't matter if you were born in this region, you would never be able to escape it, or it's not reasonably be able to escape it, to be able to take advantage of opportunities in other locations in the world. Another less extreme example is, say, a person who lives in the Philippines who maybe doesn't make that much money and can't reasonably save money to be able to leave. So they're basically stuck in a small circle where they're essentially given a very few opportunities for really much of anything, and they're kind of just there until something happens to them. So I think that there are plenty of examples of situations where people can be in those situations and have very little opportunity to do much of anything. However, very fortunately, in the West, in the United States particularly, yeah, I mean, if you are born poor, you can die rich. It's also true that if you are born rich, you can die poor. Opportunity goes both ways on the social ladder for the most part. There are hurdles, as with much things in life, but I think that it entirely depends upon where you live and what those opportunities in your community are. And if you're fortunate enough to live in the West or can get to the West, then the opportunities that we have enjoyed, is something that other people can't. But if you're not able to escape your circumstance or your community, then I would say that the opportunities that are available to you are infinitely diminished. So that's what I have to say about this. I'd be curious to know what anyone in the chat might think about this.
Yeah. Currently nothing. I use currently too many times.
Yeah, Arrowhead and Crystal Geyser, they both pulled their sponsorship. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, they just it left me cold. I mean, what they heard, the problem was that they heard that I went to Kirkland, and they were just like, nah, man, I'm sorry. No, yeah. We're gonna pull that,
There's so many water brands.
Oh my God! There, as you drink water in front of me, how dare you? Okay.
Yeah, like for instance, like this one's covered in a freaking Alhambra brand, so. What?
I'm so thirsty.
Oh. Why can't you get water? Anyway.
Water is away right now.
Oh.
Anyways.
All right.
Let's go on to the next question.
Sure. Yeah. This sounds like our normal. We're trying for the discussion bit. I don't know how well that's working.
It's working better than it normally is, so let's just keep it going.
Okay. All right. Are there opportunities available to people purely due to who they are?
Okay. I'll take this one.
Okay.
I'm going to go with yes. I think there is a time and place for each individual type of person, and depending upon the culture, depending upon the time, depends upon certain things. An example that someone could easily say, and I think they would not be able to argue this too much, is that in the past, and in the not too recent past, white men in the West were extremely privileged in the sense that they had the ability to do much of, everything. Opportunities were literally everywhere. They could do anything they really wanted to, while other, genders, other cultures, other ethnicities were pushed out of occupations or denied the ability to learn those particular skills. Now, in more recent times, you could say that the entire table has kind of been flipped. It's kind of been, we're going to include everyone except white men. And so you get kind of like this circumstance where the opportunities that were once available to just one group is now available to everyone but that one group. And so, in some ways I would say that, yeah, it totally does. Like an example is that if you live in California, because I live in California, and you're Hispanic and you're a woman, well, guess what? You qualify for essentially free education all the way to a bachelor's degree. You get a certain amount of money given to you by the state annually because of it. And there's a whole bunch of other interesting things. And then when you get done with that degree, you're able to then find jobs more readily because they were looking for a diverse hire. They want someone who's a woman. They want someone who is of a diverse background. So you kind of meet two quotas. And so it allows you to kind of capitalize on the current market. Now, will that always be the case? Probably not. Is it the case now? Certainly. But these things always change with time. And so I think that absolutely opportunity of who you are, who you're affiliated with, absolutely 100% exist and matter today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the most part, my answer is the same. If we wanted another concrete example, we covered this in the privilege episode. I need to figure out what live stream that was. I need to also not turn my head.
Well, you can. Yeah, well, I can still hear you, and you're not on camera, so it's okay.
Yeah. So.
However, these are sliding, so.
Oh no. So yeah, if we had to give a more concrete example, we've seen it. We did a double check on the privilege episode when it came to scholarships available to people.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, you can earn them, but there are certain scholarships that are only available if you fit a certain mold. Like, yeah, again, you have to earn them, but it's still opportunities only available to them purely for who they are. Such as when we took a look at it through gender, and I'm pretty sure there are going to be sites that will even further classify them to ethnicity. Like, I myself got a grant, or scholarship or an award or whatever, for school because I was a Chinese female, or I identified as such. So that's one example, or a personal example. So,
oh my god, this reminds me of something hilarious. It's sort of a tangent, side tangent. We cool with that? Cool with going down a side tangent?
I mean, I'm cool with it. I don't know if the audience is cool with it.
The audience will deal with it. So,
audience will deal with it?
Audience will deal with it, right, guys? And ladies, and everyone else in between, and green aliens. Anyways.
Boys, girls, and not... No.
Don't worry about it. We're not... See, this is the problem with this, okay? All right, I'm going to explain this, okay? So,
yeah,
all right, you identify as a Chinese woman, okay?
Okay.
So, on a document, let's say, let's...
Yeah.
Let's just, all right, so I want to take advantage of the system in every way I can, right?
Okay.
What prevents me from going, I identify with myself with all of these ethnicities and all of these genders, so that way I qualify for all of these grants? I feel like someone would raise their hand and be like, I take exception with that. That's wrong.
Uh-huh.
That's my whole argument against the whole, like, and this is going to get me in a lot of trouble, too. Like,
I mean, we've covered a couple of divisive topics before,
but,
so.
Like, here's the thing. Like, I get annoyed by the fact that, like, we're trying to mandate certain, like, terms and sort of, like, identifiers, and those particular things prevail you certain opportunities that other people don't have. It annoys the shit out of me, because I think that opportunities should be, if you're going to offer an opportunity to someone and you live in the United States, that opportunity should be available for every damn citizen. Regardless of gender, regardless of circumstance of birth, doesn't really matter. Yeah, it's funny, I identify as a Chinese woman too. Exactly, Matt, exactly. Because if I did that, then it sounds like I would get a grant too.
Essentially, yeah.
But you know what my white ass gets? My white male ass, I should say.
Oh boy.
The good old bog. Which barely pays for the books. It's like, alright.
Books are annoying. Anyway.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, so.
But yeah, I can definitely see why to a bunch of people it'd be one of the most annoying things.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of, I'd like to say it's probably going to be potentially bad in the future too. Like, I get why they exist and whatnot, because they were meant to help people that were oppressed in the past, and like, yes, some people are still being oppressed, but at the same time, it's just like, you're kind of identifying yourselves by doing this. Exactly.
Here's the problem with oppression, right?
Yeah.
Oppression takes many forms. Okay?
Yeah, it can.
And what people call oppressed, is probably more like severe bullying. If we're gonna be like actually honest about what's going on, all right?
Fair.
And
That's a fair.
And to me, at the end of the day, it's like this stuff has gone on for as long as people have been around. These arguments are ridiculous. I think these notions of people not being treated fairly is ridiculous, and it needs to stop. People need to start being like, listen, this is what I would like to do. I want to help people. Great. Help people. But don't specifically target things. Make the opportunities available to everyone equally, so that way there's an equitable outcome, rather than this nitpicky pick and choose bullshit that leads to basically self-destructive behaviors and an overall retraction from opportunities. Like, to me, nothing annoys me more. Nothing is going to annoy me more than seeing three people who are working very, very hard, be denied the opportunity to succeed because of the circumstance of their birth. And I don't care if they're white, black, purple, green, gray, I don't give a shit. Man, woman, it, slob monster, I don't care, okay? Like if
helicopter.
if they're sentient, all right, and they want to self-improve themselves, they should be afforded the same damn rights. I don't care about anyone's circumstance of birth or anything else or these preconceived entitlement ideologies. They're all ridiculous. They're all essentially, in my particular opinion, outdated. And I think that they need to be changed. I think opportunity is something that needs to be instantly available to everyone equally. And if you don't, then you're going to destroy yourself in the long run. That's what I think.
I can see why you'd think such a thing, yeah. It's like, for me, again, I mentioned that I can see why they existed because of, like, past things. But at the moment, it could either lead to that direction or it's going to continue on a worse direction because of all these different identifiers, all these differing opportunities, all these denials of opportunities just because of who you are in the past or who you identify as now. It's going to be ridiculous, and not only could it lead to self-destruction, but also people will find a reason to hate people no matter how good or bad the reason is, and having all these different identifiers is kind of dangerous because there are some volatile people out there.
Yeah, I mean, you're painting yourself a target on your back most of the time when you do these kinds of things anyways. So
Yeah.
unless, I mean, like, here's the thing. I think there are noble people out there, all right, that absolutely 100% believe that they're doing the right thing and that they are trying to promote a message that is going to help out people who feel like they're not included. And to those people, I think that they're doing something honorable, and I respect that whole idea. And to some extent, I hope that their intention, comes through. But I also think there's a lot of people that go, I like the attention they're getting. I'm going to do that because I want the attention too. And they're not doing it for the same selfless reasons. And then when they get into that position and then they get kind of found out, instead of, relenting and kind of like, kind of going back and being honest with themselves, instead, they try to pretend like they're being attacked and try to turn the argument around and make it all about the other person. And so that, to me, is the problem. There are too many of that group that are associated with that entire thing right now.
Yeah. I feel like we could go on a rant for hours about these.
We could talk about this for a very long time.
Do we want to move on then?
I think it might be in our best interest.
It might be safe. It's probably safe. Okay, moving on here. Okay. I may have reworded this word. Can more than one person benefit from the same opportunity
at once?
Yeah. I was debating whether or not to actually tack that on because of how it sounded.
It sounds right to me.
Okay.
I mean, I'm gonna say yes. I mean, I always like when I came to this particular question. My thinking when I saw this originally was a band. Let's say Queen got signed. Yeah, it wasn't just one person in the band. It wasn't Freddie who was like, "All right, yeah, I got signed on. Fuck the rest of you guys." Like, nah, like it was the entire group. Yeah, that got kind of brought up. When a sports team wins a championship, that entire sports team, won the championship. So everyone got the glory and the opportunities that are available to someone who does that. And so to me, I think that when you consider the number of people who are probably going to take advantage of an opportunity, you're going to more often than not have more than one person jumping at it at the same time. In simple terms, scholarships, as we've been discussing, get handed out pretty regularly to groups. There's not just one person who's like that one token person and goes, "Yep, I got scholarship, woo! It's all paid for." No, it's there's like literally thousands of people who get
competition to get them is kind of.
Well, there can be for some of the more higher end grants, especially if you're later on in your education. Sure, there can be a competition. But at the end of the day, most of those things, there's more than one person benefiting from it. And so, like, to me, of course, I cannot see how it isn't the case more often than not that it's more than one person.
Yeah. So I won't continue on that sort of thing. I'll go more on the... I guess I'll go more on the, is it a good idea sometimes? For the most part, it's a good idea, but then there are some people who kind of, you know that one group project where there are a couple people who are doing a bunch of stuff and then there's a couple people just riding on to get the good grade, you know?
Yeah, I may have had an experience like that over the last semester.
Yeah. So it's like, I won't continue on your line of thought because I follow the same thing. It's more on the, is it a good idea sometimes?
Okay.
Like, for the more team-based objectives, such as the sports teams you mentioned, yeah, for the most part, I'd like to say for the most part,
Okay.
each of them had to work to, you know, make sure that the team had the opportunity to, you know, go to potential nationals, go to internationals, whatever.
Or whatever
The entire
there is, yeah.
champion, yeah.
Unless you're like, you know, on a football team and you're like, you know, third string or second string and you just never got off the bench the entire season, but you got that championship, man.
So, you know, who knows? It's like there are some people who, like, again, work extremely hard for what they do, and gosh darn it, it feels good when, you know, they get what they deserve.
Sure.
And then there are some people that, you know, just coattail the thing.
Yeah.
And they just ride on it, but they didn't actually work for it, so it's like, should they have gotten type of scenario? Like, yes, yes, it's like opportunities should go for everybody, but there are just some people who, like, who will just, like, I use that word a lot. It's kind of one of those morality questions, like, of, do they actually deserve it if they didn't actually work for it type of scenario?
Well, let's kind of walk through this for a second. You know,
Yeah,
this
sure.
is kind of interesting. So let's go down the path first of why shouldn't they? Because everyone can easily come up with negativity. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's seeping around us.
So it's like,
why
I'm
shouldn't
trying
they?
to rack my head. I'm trying to rack my head around it. Like, on the one hand, it makes me feel kind of because, you know, they didn't actually work for it. But on the other hand, it's, you know, they actually did have to somewhat work for it because they had to get on the team to begin with.
Okay, sure.
You have to work to get on the team to begin with. You're not just gonna sit there,
You have to
like,
work
after
hard
you get
to
on the team.
noticed.
Yeah, you were already noticed. You already have some talent. You may not just get onto the field, again, sports analogy for whatever.
Sure.
You may not just be on the field because there are people that are objectively better than you at whatever the heck they're doing.
Sure. Or you know, I mean, there's also the other thing to think about too is that sometimes on teams there's backups because of injuries. So
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
maybe everyone has to work just as hard, you know,
Mm-hmm.
as the say first string. I have to be honest here, absolutely not in football terms. Are you kidding me? Second string, maybe you work hard. There's no fucking way. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna call out anyone who's a third string right now. You don't fucking do enough. You need to work harder.
Yeah, so it's like, it's one of those things where you have to take a look on what's going on. Like, what's the actual sport? What's the actual team? What the heck is the actual thing that's using this opportunity? Such as for band, is it for sport? What type of sport is it? Like, even for job teams, what type of job is it? Is it one of those things where you're able to kick back? Or was it one of those things where you could just sit there and you're fine?
I'm just thinking of coaches right now.
You're thinking what now?
I'm thinking of coaches. I'm just thinking like there's got to be like assistant coaches that are just like they like just wait until like the main coach just yells at everybody, you know, and then like the assistant coach just kind of sitting back like, yeah, this just happened, and then like the plays like the good cop to like the players, like super low key.
Also, hi Kyle.
Hi, Kyle.
Welcome back to the stream. All right, let's see. This one kind of fits, yeah. Opportunity of education, quality K through 12 education is something we all benefit from. The problem is so few K through 12 schools are high quality.
Okay, so there's a lot of problems I have with that, to be honest.
Oh, yeah?
I feel bad. I hate always having problems with questions. We'd have to define what is considered quality in the context of this particular thing, right?
Fair.
And like regionally speaking, each region's like level of education is going to be vary no matter what, even if they're extremely well funded. So like inherently with different teachers and different teaching styles, with different students, with different learning styles, you're going to have a variance in what is considered a quality education. So I think at the end of the day, when you talk about education overall, you can't consider the opportunities and the benefits of, say, the K through 12 system as inherently high quality or low quality, that you have to kind of take it as an aggregate average of the overall experience, because at the end of the day, a K through 12 education is really only the beginning of education. It's to get your feet wet, because the real education happens later in life, usually in your college years, and then even beyond that particular point. Because I think that that's really the point for the education as a whole. K through 12 is succeed if you can count to 10 and that you can spell. Like you can read and write, and you can to some extent do some sort of basic arithmetic. You're doing good, at least in my book. So.
All right. So it's currently 9:50. So do we want to just go ahead and move on?
Yeah.
All right.
Unless you want to have a comment to that. I know you do.
If I want to keep it short, my only comment is that quality is very, very subjective, depending on the environment. Like,
Shocking.
Heavily subjective.
Shocking.
You sarcastic mother checker.
Maybe just a little bit.
Alright. So, whereas you could have one opportunity applying to multiple people, here, does one opportunity lead to two and essentially continue growing over time? Kind of like if you get one opportunity, which leads to a second one, does it kind of grow exponentially, if you had to put it in math terms, which probably people are going to hate me for in about 5 minutes?
No, you're absolutely right in that particular way. That's exactly how I kind of view opportunity. I think opportunity kind of like starts off small, typically speaking, and then I think they often build off each other, usually multiplying in a sense of like in a magnitude and increasing that magnitude over time as more opportunities become available to you.
Yeah.
Because I kind of like look at opportunity kind of like how I look at money. And typically, if you're in the business of making money, right?
Yeah.
You're going to first spend a bunch of money. You're going to go almost to zero, if not into the red, and start owing shit, right? To build up, to actually earn money, right? Then what's going to happen is you're going to make a little bit. And then if you're smart about it and make the right kind of investments, that little bit will grow. And it'll continue growing, theoretically, as long as you keep on doing what you're doing, right? And this is super layman's terms. I'm not going to go into detail about this, but I could. The main thing is that when it comes to this, I think opportunity functions the exact same way. Let's say you learn a skill, all right? And let's say an opportunity comes along where you could tutor somebody in this skill. Let's say that you're good at math. I know you can speak to this particular analogy. And let's say you do a good job. Now that one person passes a word of mouth to another person. Now you have two people who come to you and go, "Hey, can you help me with math?" And then those two people contact maybe a person or two, and now you have 4 people coming to you. And it just keeps on going and going and going and going until you now have a whole bunch of people who come to you looking for help.
I know that feeling.
And you're speaking to the mic. You are too far from the mic. I can see it in the camera.
From the mic, I'm literally the same distance as before.
Okay, with the hand not in the way.
Nah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the problem with a microphone that's not attached to the headset.
Yeah, all your actions. Anyways,
Excusez-moi?
Well, I didn't say anything.
Uh-huh.
I said actions, and that was it. I cut myself off. Anyways, does opportunities 2 or more keep on growing over time? My position, yes. What's yours?
The second short of it would be a yes. If I had to give a different example, some people might know what the heck I'm talking about. Job interviews.
Okay.
I have had this happen to me. I've had a couple of friends have this happen to them, where they would put out resume after resume, doing job application after job application, and there's just this stint of nothing happening, and then you get one call for a job interview, and then all of a sudden, over the next week or two, it's just like, hey, there's this application, hey, there's that application, hold on, there's everything. So I don't know how many people can attest to that happening for them, but it's happened to a good portion of my friend group, and me included. And then as for your whole student tutoring analogy or example, yeah, like for the past year I've tutored one person each semester, and then like Next semester, I'm actually helping 2 people. But it's just a matter of if you do a good job in your first opportunity, it's going to spread, lead to more, whether that be through social skills, social networks, job opportunities, because your skills are being more well known, research opportunities, again, same reason, and almost kind of any opportunity you can think of.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there, though. There's one thing that's kind of important. We're going down a slippery slope here. Because clearly, if that was true, our YouTube subscriber count would be much higher.
Aye.
Folks, spread the word. Spread the word for the channel, please.
I want to hit the button.
Subscribe. Talk about the channel. I want what she's saying to be true. Sorry. Continue.
No, you're good. You're fine. But yeah, there are some times where it just doesn't. As much as I don't like it.
Yeah.
Alright, we still got about 6 more?
Yeah. Alright.
Alright. But boom! Is there a way to increase the chances of you having an opportunity?
Yes.
To keep it short, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, honestly, yeah, absolutely. You gotta be, I think the most important thing when it comes to opportunities is you gotta be open to them. I think that if you have a closed mind, if you're not taking a look at your situations that are coming your way, and you're not having a completely open mind about them, I think you'll miss opportunities that are right in front of you. I think that the best thing you can possibly do is just go into everything with an open mind. Don't have any set expectations necessarily, unless you're having goals, at which point have expectations for yourself, not expectations for outcomes. And go from there and let the opportunities come your way. If you do it that particular way. Another way you can also increase your chances of having opportunities is by networking. So the more people you communicate with, the more people who know about you, which means the more chances someone who might have an opportunity might send it your way. And then the last thing I could say is that learn a skill of some kind. You know, learn a trade, learn something that makes you necessary. So that way people have to think about you. Because if someone has to think about you, then the more likely chance that when an opportunity comes to them and then they have to pass it on or recommend someone, because they have to think of you, you're going to be the first or second on their mind.
So for the most part, I can't add any more to that, like when it comes to different ways of increasing opportunities. So if I had to come up with concrete examples, for the first one where you were mentioning being open.
Well, like, what did you agree with exactly, though?
So far, it's, being open and having the social network. I believe those are definitely important. I have a cute quote that I found off a Tumblr post. I should have got it, but I didn't realize you had mentioned it. To keep the Tumblr post short, it was essentially this quote of, find 3 hobbies for your life. 1 to keep you fit, 1 to keep you happy, 1 to make you money.
Okay.
So, because there are, of course, the specializations, and depending on how many people are in your specialization will determine, what you can kind of do with it.
Okay.
Such as, if I had to come up with another example, there was this college story where this professor legitimately, it was a general ed class a couple years back, and class was maybe 200 people. It was one of those large general education classes.
Oh wow, that's a large class.
It was a public university, yeah.
Like, I'm speaking to a crowd right now. All right.
Yeah, pretty much. There was a ton of people. So he had the question of, all right, how many of you are this major? If I had to give a name, maybe a history major, a couple people. Sure. How many of you are, say, okay, I can't remember all the majors, but it's a couple of majors that
business.
At that moment of time wasn't too popular.
Psychology.
And then for every single one of those where only maybe 10 or fewer people raised their hands, he went to each of them going, okay, in about 10 years, you're going to have a job offering, you're going to have a job offering, you're going to have a job offering. And then we got to the big ones, what's popular at the moment? Data science?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, data science. So it's how many of you are engineers or data science? And then over 50% of the class raised their hand.
Computer engineers are very popular.
Yeah,
now.
so he as soon as he asked that one and had that many people raise their hands, he gestured to the entirety of the room and said, "Look around you. That's your competition." And I'm just thinking, holy crap, that is actually true.
Yeah. So you gotta be the best. You gotta be the best fish out of 200 people. It's like, all right, cool. All right, that sounds like a good deal. Okay, best fish out of 8 million people. Okay,
That's a little more difficult.
Starting to feel a little harder. That's gonna be a little more difficult.
So that's for the whole specialization, gaining a skill. If you're gonna gain that skill, either be the best you can at it, or choose a skill that's actually not too popular, because you'll be one of very few. And if you do for an essential worker, such as you mentioned I was thinking butchering, but plumbing.
Yeah.
People are going to need that no matter where you go.
You know what? Computer engineering is very popular. You know what's really easy? Become an electrician.
Yeah.
That's like a year or two of school.
I don't know.
I mean, it's hard work, to learn. But once you got it, could be out there. There'll be a lot of opportunities.
Yeah. As for the open, I definitely agree with that, because if you're closed to a bunch of things, for one, you're not going to gain extra skills because you've closed off those opportunities. If I had to give a concrete example, there's this one anime that I watched way long ago, so I'm not going to remember everything because my memory's freaking terrible here. It was called Skip Beat. It was about this person who had gotten taken advantage of, i.e., they dropped out of school to follow their high school sweetheart, supported them in their job.
Okay.
The person they were supporting did not care for them.
Oh boy.
So they decided to get into the same type of business to try and get their revenge.
Of course.
She played this one role the main character played this one role particularly well.
Of course, it's a woman.
Yeah. It's an old anime. Anyway, so the main character played one type of role extremely well. So she tried to only go for that one role, only for her manager to essentially, if you had to put it someplace, smack her over the head for it. Because if you go for one role, that'll be great, but if all those roles are taken in the future, what are you gonna do?
Nothing.
So I feel like that kind of goes against what I was just saying about the whole specialization. If you're gonna get a skill, be the best you can at it, or choose one that's very few. So it just depends on what the scenario is,
but
versus.
Anime is not real life though. That's
the
other thing to kind of note. Your story, while interesting, isn't actually it's an interesting story for an analogy, but for practical speaking purposes, I think your original concept is probably more accurate. Yeah. Because in the real world, all right, you are going to have, if you, let's say, let's look at the computer engineers, right? And let's assume for a second computer engineers are paid pretty damn well in comparison to a lot of other degrees right now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people trying to pursue that particular job. So there's a lot of jobs technically out there. But eventually, and it won't happen all at once, but eventually it'll happen, all of those jobs will eventually become filled. And if you continue down that particular road and the jobs are filled, then now you're going to struggle. You're going to be competing with all the people who already are where they're at, and you're going to be newbie. So it puts you up against a wall. And I think that particular thing is really important to consider when it comes to careers, but also important to consider when it comes to opportunities. Because if you don't have opportunities, particularly in education, and you want to pursue education, guess what? You got student loans. And guess what? Student loans is going to be an episode we're going to discuss in the near future. So look forward to that one, folks. Let's move on to the next question.
Yeah, sure. All right. What types of things or actions could decrease the chances of having an opportunity?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
What?
You want to take this one?
If I had to go with an example you were talking to me about earlier, it would be the whole closing metaphorical doors to yourself.
Sure.
Essentially, stopping yourself from gaining any extra skills, any extra improvements. Mostly because if you don't have those extra skills, you can be great at what you do, but you could be even greater when you add more things to it that you can do. Well, at least. For instance, if I had to put my personal take on it, why hire a regular mathematician when you can get an accountant, or when you can get a mathematician who also specializes in either accounting or specifically data science? You've got one person who's like doing the one general thing, but then you've got somebody who can do a lot more on top of that.
Okay, and I'm going to say this now. This is assuming nothing about the person, right?
Assuming so, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Because if the moment you add in a certain assumptions with that person, there's other factors that
Oh yeah,
become
most
involved.
definitely. So I'm trying to be as objective as I can, but I know real life doesn't unfortunately work that way.
Because in real life, okay, if it's a woman, let's be honest, who's getting hired?
Yeah, I know.
And then, and also on top of that, if the person is trustworthy, or does a good job, maybe they don't need to have all the specializations.
Fair.
And also, price. Because if you have specializations, guess what? You cost more to hire.
Yeah.
So, something to consider as well.
So it's like, it works one way in some scenarios, but also other times specialization can sometimes work against you.
Yes, it can.
Such as what more known example is if you have a higher degree, the lower paying positions not really going to hire you because they can hire somebody else for cheaper.
Yeah.
So that was an example I pulled. I remember, let's see, what else? I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now, and I'm sorry if I took your example.
No, you're good. I already have everything.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Wanna go?
Yeah, sure. So things that I think can decrease your chances of having opportunities is making a series of bad decisions in life. An example of bad decision is, I'm 18. I'm going to get my girlfriend pregnant.
Oh,
That's going to
gosh.
be a big problem, because guess what? You now just added a whole bunch of responsibilities on top of whatever else you had going on. So now you're going to be distracted and unable to take advantage of certain opportunities. Like, let's say you got into a school, but that's halfway across the country. How are you going to do that with a kid? Another type of situation you can get in trouble with is if you start doing a whole bunch of drugs and get caught. Guess who's going to jail sometimes, depending on what the situation is with that. Or, more importantly, maybe you have some sort of negative effect. Maybe you did so much drugs that by the time you got clean, you have damaged your brain in some way. And so now, some of the opportunities that you might be able to take advantage of are there, but you are unable to take them on.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole bunch of other things that could happen
Yeah.
too when it comes to decreasing your chances. But I think the biggest one is that earlier in the chat, someone had said that opportunities are chances.
I think they
Or
mentioned
choices.
no. Yeah, opportunity is a choice. That's
Choice.
what host
Yeah,
said.
that's right. Host said it was a choice. In this regard, to this particular question, I would agree with the notion of it being a choice. And I think that choice is a chance as well. Like, I think that it's like, if you choose to do things in life that remove your ability to partake in later activities in life, you have no one to blame but yourself.
Fair. So some of those choices are just objectively bad choices.
Yeah, I mean, like, here's the other thing too.
Yeah.
Like, opportunity, is usually one of those things that people automatically assume is prevailed to everyone. Like, if you get certain opportunities, you're like, oh, cool, everyone has the same opportunities, and that's not really the case. That's not actually how it usually unfolds for most people. And so when you compound bad decision making while also having the situation of having only certain opportunities afforded to you, you start to have a compression effect where you have even smaller chances for those opportunities. So you take even longer to get off the starting point, if you're to think back to the race analogy when it comes to this. And so, like, this is why it's really important to never do anything to detract from those opportunities, or if you can, immediately, turn it around. Because the longer you stay in those negative states, the more less open you are to the rest of the world and what it has to offer, oh man, the harder it's going to be to start chasing down the things you actually care for and to make the dreams you want to have, the dreams you have, a reality. So, anyways, do you have anything more to say to this?
Not really. I was just thinking on everything you were saying and thinking like about specifically keeping good track of your body and like how healthy it is. Because
Yeah.
when you were mentioning the drugs thing, if you let your body get unhealthy, a lot of like physical opportunities are going to get potentially kind of erased, such as if you give yourself a negative health condition. Is there the potential to be hospitalized? And if so, how long are you stuck in there? Are you able to travel? Are you able to even work? Are you able to do anything, or did you kind of wreck your body so bad due to your choices that it just erased those opportunities entirely? It's just kind of those types of thoughts.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about it, but I'm thinking on it.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to hopefully move on to something happier. Let's see.
Yeah. Let's get away from the negativity. Happy thoughts.
God darn it. I forgot I had this question right after.
God damn it. You know what?
Sorry, my bad.
Tell you what. We're
What?
gonna take this in the happy direction. All right.
How?
We're gonna ignore the why not now.
Okay.
No, I'm gonna talk about the why not first,
Okay.
and then we'll talk about the why. But go ahead and read the question for our audience.
Are there opportunities that shouldn't be taken? Why or why not?
Okay, so why not? Well, because I don't want bad things to happen to good people. And I want to believe that every person is good. No matter what they've done, I want to believe every person at their core is a good person. And so I want as many opportunities to be allowed and prevailed and just everywhere for every person. So that's what I'm going to say about that.
Okay.
I'm not going to be negative.
No matter what I say, I'm gonna sound negative in some bit. If I had to make it funny, if I had to give a concrete example, I'd say like catfishing. Yeah, I know I'm stalling. I'd say like catfishing is a funny one. Do you know what catfishing is?
First of all, yes, I know what catfishing is in both the dating term as well as the actual, going fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but which one are you referring to?
The dating one.
Interesting. That's an interesting look. That's a different way to take this than I would have expected, especially from you. Okay. Tell us more.
Because it's an opportunity that, in a lot of cases, kind of seems too good to be true. Mostly on the physical side of things. And then when it happens, it's like that could either end up to a poor choice, depending on how their personality, or it could be an interesting choice because it's like, yeah, they may not look like whatever picture they decided to post, but for some of them, it's literally just to get the attention so that they can actually start impressing you with who they actually are, because there's a portion of people that will purely look at aesthetics and then just go. So if they don't catch your attention, they can't start impressing you because of who they are on the inside rather than on the outside type of thing. So it's like catfishing is one of those, it depends.
You're adorable.
What?
That's not how anyone looks at those things.
I mean, it's one way.
Okay, all
It's
right.
probably not a common way.
Okay, I'm just going to be 1000% with you. In the history of catfishing, anybody ever, Okay, all right, we're going to go on a different tangent here. We're going on a little tangent. I'm sorry, but I have to. I made it a fake account on one of those free dating apps. I call it the Super Chad. All right, it's like a bunch of stock photos of really buff looking dudes that are basically, they look very similar to each other. They're not the same though. All right, yeah. Super Chad. And Super Chad says horrible things. You could say that I was influenced by other popular YouTubers to do something similar to this.
Okay.
But I honestly wanted to see if the results could be recreated. And the results that were originally posted were that women, regardless of what the person said, would do absolutely anything to get with Super Chad. Okay? I think you know where this is going. Super Chad account basically had a 100% success rate on all swipes. 100%, okay? 100%. And these women wanted to do horrendous things to Super Chad. Alright?
Yeah.
Catfishing does not work. And you want to know why? because Super Chat, if ever found out all of those things, instantly 0. Instantly. So, if catfishing works, it does not work both ways. That's what I'm saying about that.
So, it's one of those, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. For the most part, like 95% of it doesn't.
I want to see where that 5% looks.
Yeah, so do I.
Absolutely no evidence to substantiate your claim.
Yeah, but you can't say 100% either because you don't know every case either, so...
Hey, I'm not, did I say a number? Did I throw a percentage out there?
No, but you implied it.
No, all I said was that I think that it probably doesn't work. I didn't say it never works.
Yeah, but you implied it considering how quickly you subtracted into it.
I think you're reading into it.
Of course I'm reading into it. You read into everything as well.
Hey. I have reason to read into it, though.
Uh-huh.
I do.
So the show isn't a good reason. Got it.
The logic is proving to be strong. Stronger than I thought. I'm going to acquiesce to your position. I feel forced.
Let's see.
I feel dirty now. I've been tainted.
Ay. Anyway, let's see. What physical factors can affect whether or not you choose to take an opportunity?
Oh my gosh.
What?
So
What
many.
up?
So many. Okay, so let's take a look at a few. Opportunities come in many shapes and forms. And let's say you are offered a job to work very closely, very closely with a absolutely drop-dead gorgeous person, regardless of your, gender, sexual orientation. Let's say whatever the person is, they are your cake. They're your candy. They're your whatever the special thing that you assign that you're like, yeah, this is exactly what I want. For me, pizza. But it's fine. But this person is just that person, right? 100%. Are you gonna jump on that particular opportunity? Yes, you will. I think 100% you will. Now, let's say same circumstance, same opportunity, different person. Now, this person is the exact everything I hate, the antithesis of all things. But yet, the opportunity is exactly the same, and it's very beneficial. Oh man, so beneficial. Would you take that opportunity? I personally, hell the fuck no. And the reason why? I value my sanity. I value it very much. So, I think absolutely there are physical factors, and I think that just using that particular example illustrates a physical factor. Especially if you're going to be very close to someone. Oh boy, yeah, exactly. Right up to your elbow. You have no idea. You have no idea. Host, you have no idea.
Oh, dang. Anyway, let's see. Yeah, that's one definitely physical factor on a person.
Yeah, or cats.
Or cats. Or food.
Or catfish.
Yeah, a big thing for me would be location and people.
Okay.
Because if there was a great opportunity, say, across the world or internationally, could be the greatest opportunity, but I'd still be skeptical because, would I know it? Do I value that opportunity more than I value the social network I have at home and whether I want to stay close to them and whatnot? Traveling through a state, way different than traveling, across waters.
All right. So let's paint a suggestion, okay? All right. Let's just paint a suggestion, okay?
Sure.
Okay. So let's say hypothetically, right?
Okay.
Someone offered you a job in Hong Kong.
Okay.
Hong Kong.
Let's say I knew the language.
Let's say you know the language. Let's say you know the job's great. It pays phenomenal. You got a great living space. You're making a great salary. You're doing something you love. You don't get to bring a single person that you know with you. Do you do it?
It's do I really wanna?
It's like, is there
It's
internet?
like it's so good,
Tell you what,
but
also-
at the
tell you
same
what.
time,
Tell you
huh?
what, you cannot play D&D or Skype with anyone.
God.
But you make $2 million a year.
Jesus fuck.
Wow! It's the money once again.
Oh,
Oh
let's
my
see.
God.
Let me think on that.
Okay, sure. See, here's the thing, folks. She's got to think about it, and do you want to know why she's got to think about it? Because she's trying to evaluate how much money she's willing to spend to compensate for that particular thing. Is it worth the difference?
Pretty much. Like, okay.
She's like says it so confidently too. It's like
Hey, I'm not in denial here. I'm not
you're
one
like,
of those bimbos.
I'm not a monster. How dare you insinuate I'm a monster?
It's like, oh no, not that. I know for a fact I'm a monster. I'm just not a monster in denial, okay? Anyway, like, would I be able to visit? Or do I just have to permanently stay there?
Once a year.
God.
Once a year.
And how long?
A month.
A month. Okay.
See,
Gosh.
I'm gonna make it real. I'm not gonna make it like not unrealistic. I'm gonna make
Like,
it
it's the
real.
most extreme thing ever. It's like, this is a test of your strength.
I'm gonna make it real in every way except for the money. just
Yeah, I
just
know.
to highlight the fact of just like how much she's willing to sacrifice for money.
God.
Like, it's we already know. Even if you say no, the sheer pause, the struggle going on right now.
I know.
Is self-evident of what you actually are doing. The
If
question
it was actually 2 mil,
do you bury yourself or do you just take it like a champ?
if it was actually 2 mil,
Here we go.
I'd probably actually take it.
She's burying herself, okay?
Yeah, I'm burying myself. I already knew I was burying myself no
You're
matter
like,
what the
I'm
hell I
taking
chose.
it. 2 million? Woo!
Because here's the thing, because with that 2 mil, even if I'm visiting for a month, that could handle so much crap of what I want to do, whether that be taking care of friends and family, or investments if I got a good one. And it'd be able to, like you mentioned with the money thing earlier, if I did it smartly, that increased what I've got to help even more people, not just my friends and family.
Do you hear that, folks? $2 million to get yourself a rose. $2 million.
But it's just like, I was thinking, it's just like, do I really want to just leave everything behind? And then I thought about it, it's just like, but with that, I can help so many friends and family here.
I think you don't realize how much $2 million actually is. It's not that much money.
I know it's not that much money, like in the thick of it, but like if you do it smartly, it can get to a lot.
Okay. Sounds like I have my investment strategy, buddy. All right. I have a job for you.
Yeah, we can try another good one.
I see the eyebrow raise. All right. I like this. This is all right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a new plan. It's time to make $1 bajillion.
But yeah, like physical factors such as people, location, physical for one. Physical's a big one for a lot of people, including myself.
Oh my god, yeah. I'll tell you right now, like, hands down, all right? Anyone offers me, like, okay, listen, I want you to be a therapist in Kauai for 10 years. You don't bring anyone, you get paid a decent salary, you get your own room and board, and you get 3 days off. I'm like, oh, that's lifetime signature. Here we go, folks. I'll be indentured. I don't give a fuck. Like, 100%.
Here's a funny one. Here's a funny one that made my friends and I laugh hecka hard.
Okay.
It was essentially,
Hecka
you know, that
hard.
question of, would you stab your best friend in the leg for like $100,000? And
How
my
many
friends and I
do got?
immediately, huh?
How many friends do I get to do this to?
I don't know, your best one?
Ooh. Oh.
Yeah, it has to be your best one.
Nope, not doing it. No.
Here's the funny thing.
Can't do that. Because we
Here's
know who
the-
my best friend is.
Yeah. Here's the funny thing. Those I considered my best friends and vice versa, we would absolutely do it because you can heal from a stab wound.
Yeah, no, I'm not the way I stab. I have to. It's an honest stab, right?
No, it's just a stab.
Oh, it's just like a stab. Like, so theoretically, I just poke you and that's it.
I mean, it has to
And that's a
like
technical
go in,
stab.
but it's just like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be fatal or anything.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, everyone's getting stabbed. And
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
so
Like
it's
you have
like,
to think on it, but the first thing is it's a moral question. Like, but then when you actually think on the thing, it's just a. Chink.
But But here's the thing: you're changing the terms of it, though. You're 100%.
No, I just
changing
said
the
you
terms.
just have to stab. You're the one
No,
that
no, you're
like
changing
people
the
are the
terms.
ones that assume. No,
No,
I
no,
literally
that's
said
not-
you
no.
stab your friend.
Yeah, exactly. You stabbed a friend.
I
And-
didn't tell you. I
and
didn't
then
tell you
add-
exactly how hard you stabbed.
Here's the thing: you add in the think about it part.
Huh?
That's the part you're changing. So absolutely, you're changing the whole context of the thing.
Host kind of. Yeah, I agree with Host. My best friend would stab me for not taking it.
Okay, host, I got a question for you. Is your best friend a woman or is it a man? This matters.
Oh, I'd absolutely stab either.
It's a clean wound. Okay, doesn't matter. I'm confused. Anyways, back to the thing. So, yeah. Do you want to throw a hypothetical my way or you want to move on to the next one?
I threw you a hypothetical and you immediately went for the hard stab.
Well, okay, so we're just like, just gonna...
I mean, do you want to throw a hypothetical?
Nah, I just did. I sent you a great one. One that hurts your head. I saw it.
We're interpreting the contract. We're not doing anything wrong. Sorry.
Man
Loopholes,
friend?
gotta love them.
It's a man friend, huh? All right, host.
Man friend?
All right, your boyfriend and you can, go ahead and stab each other. You're going to jail regardless. Okay.
You'd be going to jail regardless.
Okay.
I mean, I'll think on that later.
I mean, it's $100,000. I'm sorry, but like, a misdemeanor for $100,000. That's okay. That's a slap on the wrist.
And that's assuming they report you for it.
Man, who the fuck wouldn't?
I mean, if I knew about it, I'd, let them.
Matt, that's an extremely expensive lawyer. I'm gonna go with the public attorney, the one they give me for free. Like that. That's you know what? Hell, I'll represent myself. I did.
Okay,
I did it,
again.
Your Honor. I'm not even gonna call bullshit. That's 100%. I did that. I will take the consequences. We're not gonna fight this. Pleading guilty. It's clear. I did it. Slap me on the wrist.
Yeah.
Hey! Don't forget though.
What's up?
I'm privileged. Don't forget, I'm a white guy. I don't go to jail. I'm getting in trouble for that one.
Probably because I know a friend of mine who's just like, because he was a white male, he got like the other head around.
Are you talking about the speeding ticket guy?
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
Hmm?
What?
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 I don't know if we're talking about the same guy no more.
No, I don't think so either.
Alright.
That guy.
When
Anyways.
choosing
What?
when choosing to take an opportunity, how much does psychology play a role in the choice made?
Everything.
A lot.
Yeah, absolutely everything. Not truthfully speaking, I mean, there's a whole bunch of little processes that go on, and without getting too much into the various roles and things that happen when it comes to a person's identity, the things in which they specifically choose to internalize is typically the things that they most likely idealize, which means the exact opposite is what they often reflect, which has to do with the actual choices that are made. And so when it comes down to an opportunity, let's say a person idealizes someone in, that's sports. Let's use a sports analogy, because I think this is something that's pretty easy to understand. If you emulate someone that you admire, then more often than not, you're going to make choices that are often the exact same choices you think that person would make, and more often than not, they're the exact opposite. Because typically the people you idolize you're seeing them from what they choose to put in the world, not whom they actually are. So you're either getting half of, if at all, any picture at all of a person.
You're getting just the one perspective versus the overall one.
Mm-hmm. And so I think that when it comes down to the overall opportunities, it varies a lot person to person, life experience, age, gender, background, ethnicity, everything under the sun are all play factors when it comes down to this. And so I'm just going to say, honestly, it's everything. Everything, and to the degree is what are the variables there.
Yeah. For me, when I think of this question, I think of more on the morality and mentality. Like, how far does the choice that you're supposedly making, how far will that bend or break or even break your morals? Again, if I had to give it the quick, concrete example, it'd be the stabbing question I brought up last time. Because it's like immediately, are you willing to stab your friend for money?
I mean, no. But like, when you add the thinking part, then that depends.
Again, you're the one who brought
I will die on this hill! I don't care!
Yeah, you'll die on the hill. You'll probably die from the stab wound.
Oh my god.
if you're going the way you're talking about it.
Now, here's a
my
question.
friend.
Do I get the 100 grand for being stabbed, or do I get 100 grand for doing the stabbing?
I think, yeah, the way it was, would you stab your best friend for 100 grand?
So you gotta be the one who does the stab.
Yes.
So you gotta be stab.
Yes.
Okay.
I would absolutely stab. My friend would stab me instead if I didn't take it.
So we have one more question. That's the one for the audience, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get to that particular question, while we still have viewers, I just want to once again remind everybody that on June the 16th, there will be another Q&A episode where you are going to get the opportunity to ask us any questions you'd like. You can be as serious or silly as you'd like. Email us at wickedparley@gmail.com for your questions. You are allowed to ask up to 5. I don't want more than 5. Someone sent in like a bajillion questions, and I appreciate that person. That person knows who they are. I hope. And understand that, like, I think 5 is a good number. It's a solid number. I hope that you guys get some enjoyment out of it. But I encourage you to do that. And if you don't send in questions, well, the Q&A episode is going to be rather short. And you're going to have to hear me talk about the things that I like, not the things you want to know about. And I guarantee you, I will have a 45-minute tangent about how I like the silver in Alucard's hair in Castlevania.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, I think I'll put in the whole, if you've got more than 5 questions, we'll only actually answer the first 5 and save everything else for the next Q&A.
Or we'll pick and choose.
Or pick and choose.
If you have a really great one, I mean, like, and it's like number like 11.
Some of them are some of them can get really, really good, and you want to include them. But like, then it's just a matter of like, it's outright bias. So I'm gonna say like first 5, no matter what they are.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna be part of that decision, and if it's a good question and it's like 7, then just assume that it's gonna get picked. Like, I'm okay with reading through the questions and sifting through the ones I'm willing to address and what I'm not. Know that if it's funny, I'll probably talk about it. Know that if it's serious, I'm gonna talk about it. Know that if I don't understand it and I have to ask what this is about, know that there's a good chance that it's gonna get left on the cutting room floor. So, I mean, there is that. And then the other thing that I think is kind of important to know about you guys is that we're going to be, once again, I want to talk about, I said this at the beginning, but I want to talk about it at the end too, just to make sure, in case you guys left. June 19th is going to be an episode where I'm going to kind of introduce certain psychological subject matters that I intend to use for future episodes. I'm going to kind of go over the basics, a little bit about where it got started, who started it, some of the ideologies around some of the perspectives, dabble a little bit with a couple of the bigger theories of the day and the ones that pertain to the subjects that we're going to be talking about primarily. I will mention Freud, so if you want to hear me go on a tangent about that, that's the episode you're going to be looking for. Yeah. So with that being said,
episodes.
We have one question for you guys, our viewers. Throw it up, please.
To the audience, we'd like to ask you, what type of opportunities have you had throughout your life?
Yeah, like what kind of things have you experienced? What kind of things have you been able to take advantage of? And did that make your life better? Were the opportunities beneficial or did they detract? So send it to our Gmail, awickedparley at gmail.com. And we also give
Twitter, on the comment section.
Yep, Twitter or the comment section. And we will see you guys in the next one. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you. We bid you adieu.
Later.